I want to bring this boy back. He might even do that song again.
If you want me to do all, I'll play it 5 times.
Well, I tell you what, he is a phenomenal writer, singer, human being.
I was so hoping that he would
You know,
everything.
I saw him a few years ago and I thought, dang, what happened to you? Are you in chemotherapy or something? But it ain't what happened. Now, he can explain it to you better than I can. He just lost all the hair on his whole body. Well, that sounds like an alligator or something. Mike Jurgensen. Y'all welcome.
That's important.
Good. Thank you, Frank. Yeah, this is called alopecia. For those of you who haven't seen it before, I'm in perfect health, but yeah, I just lost all my hair for some reason, and I don't know why it is. I used to have good hair, but it's really kind of cool because now showers take me like 3 minutes, and it's simplified my. That's right. Yeah, I'm streamlined. I'm really fast now. So. It's a real honor to be here playing again at the Frank Thomas Festival, and there is nothing more appropriate to be in the Dade Battlefield Memorial Park here, honoring Florida, and by honoring Florida, you're honoring Frank Thomas. They go hand in hand. They're one and the same. So I'm just real honored to be here. I'm going to do a song that I wrote a few years back. For those of you who are here, probably your favorite drive is not up I-75 or I-4 or I-10. None of those I's are the place to get anywhere. If you want to get anywhere around Florida, you really want to go on the back roads. My son, Ian, went to Flagler College. We lived down in Newport Richey, so we would go visit him. And we rather than taking what MapQuest suggested, and that's to go out 54 to 75, and then maybe south to I-4, and then east to I-95, and then north to St. Augustine. That's not the way to do it. You want to go from my house, you want to go out 54 to 41, then you take 41 north up to 200. 200 takes you through Ocala, and then you catch 301. 301 north, you go to Citra, and then you take 318 to 315 to 310. 310 runs into 19, which takes you up to Palatka, and then Palatka you catch 15100 east over to 207. 207, then you take north for about 20 miles or so, and then there you are in St. Augustine. So that's... I drove it so many times. It's a beautiful drive.
Now you got to give us directions to your house so we can start there.
Yeah, oh, that's right, yeah. Well, take I-75 south. So anyway, this is called Florida Backroads. I've traveled down your highways, all your interstates and byways, and though they all bring me home, it's those back roads that keep calling, and I find that I keep falling more in love with you while I am gone. 'Cause it's those roads that thrill me, driving up your coast I will be, leaving all of my worries behind. And I can see your storm clouds clear, looking in my rearview mirror. And if I'm running late to get home, I don't mind. From Key West to Tallahassee, St. Augustine to Caloosahatchee, no matter which way I'm bound, 'cause I'm on the road to nowhere. It don't matter when I get there. If I get lost, I don't care if I'm found. I gotta keep these four wheels rolling to feed this hunger that keeps growing. Gotta keep those miles clicking, time's ticking away. There's still so much left to see here, and I'm so happy just to be here, exploring Florida's beauty today. This two-lane blacktop soothes like a salve to my soul, and these rivers, forests, lakes, and pastures make me whole. So if you don't mind, I'll keep traveling, watching this old road unraveling. There's another curve up ahead, and around that bend there may be something else that will amaze me, to reaffirm this old life I have led. But I could use someone to guide me, and there's an empty seat beside me. This journey's unfulfilled if I make it alone. So take my hand now, please come with me, and we can share the grace and beauty. Wherever we may travel across this state we'll call home. Thank you. A number of the songs that I've written, my Florida songs, have come from newspaper articles or magazine articles, and I found that there's a wealth of wonderful feature writers, newspapers around the state, and they just provide great ideas for songs. This next song was inspired by an article I read by Craig Pittman of the St. Pete Times some years back. And it was about a panther, a Florida panther that had been tagged Panther number 62 at birth, and then tracked to see what its migrating patterns would be. It was tagged in South Florida, and then they followed it. They would like fly in a plane and track it with a GPS. And this particular panther was the first documented panther to swim the Caloosahatchee River and migrate north of the Caloosahatchee. And it wound up migrating northward all the way up to around Lakeland, and then it headed back east towards Disney World and past Disney World, and then headed south and over around Melbourne, and then back south again, and they lost track of it in Charlotte County. But they were able to kind of keep track of that panther in later years as well. And since then, there have been more instances of panthers migrating northward, and there's movements going on now to try to preserve some of the wildlife corridors, the natural preserves, so that they are able to keep this migrating pattern go and give them a room to roam, so to speak. So this is called Florida Panther 62, and it's told from the point of view of the panther. I am a panther, I'm a wanderer, and I have strayed far from my home. I am alone, born in a swamp in Collier County. At 18 months left it behind. I'm a wandering kind. Now there's a phantom on the loose. Florida Panther 62. I came upon the Caloosahatchee. Oh, that river cold and wide. Swam to the other side. Found myself in land uncharted, but my instincts drove me on. My journey just begun. Alive and free, one of the few. Florida Panther 62. Now I'm a stranger in a strange land, stalking through the dark of night. I avoid the light. Prairies and creeks, I seek a refuge. Stay away from scent of man. Don't know how long I can. I seek my kind, this I must do. Florida Panther 62. I'm just seeking unclaimed ground. And my quest keeps me northward bound. On Catfish Creek, up near Lake Hatchinaw, I found a home of sandhill scrub. Was a place I dreamed of. Among the ferns and ancient sand dunes, I'm trying to find myself a mate. How much longer must I wait? My dying breed I must renew. And if I must, I'll leave here too. I'll search this land my whole life through. Florida Panther 62. Florida Panther 62. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Well, I was, as I said, raised in, I was raised in North Carolina in Chapel Hill, actually, until I was 15. Then I moved down to Tarpon Springs just before 10th grade, lived with my mom, and I went to high school there. But my grandparents, my mother's parents, had actually moved their family, the Reynolds family, from Iowa down to Fort Myers back in the 40s. And so they lived down there while I was growing up, and they passed away. I think I was in first year of college when my grandmother passed away. But before I moved to Florida, my brother and I would always come down to Fort Myers for a couple of weeks in the summertime and visit with them. They lived about a quarter of a mile from the Henry Ford home, right on or the Edison home, right on the Caloosahatchee there. And my brother and I would just spend hours out on the seawall on the Caloosahatchee there, just playing around and looking for crabs, and every once in a while we'd see a little mud shark or something, and it would just make our day. But I always wanted to write a song as a tribute to the time we spent down there. And so I went online to research the Caloosahatchee River, and I found a group called the Caloosahatchee River Watch organization, which they are in the process of trying to preserve the history of the Caloosahatchee River and save the ecosystem around the old oxbows of the original Caloosahatchee, which was a very windy river. So they take tours out of the locks, through the locks there, and out into the old oxbows, and talk about the natural habitat there that they're trying to preserve. But as you probably know, the Florida Cross Florida Barge Canal was cut straight across the Caloosahatchee, so they didn't want to mess with oxbows and bends in the river. They just cut straight across east and headed over towards Okeechobee and then down towards on the east coast. So it was just kind of a fascinating story of how the Caloosahatchee had been converted to this, barge canal use, and I wanted to write a song that commemorated the original Florida, the river that had those wonderful bends, windier bends. So this is called "Roll On Caloosahatchee." Roll on Caloosahatchee, past palmettos, pines, and groves, from the great Lake Okeechobee to the Gulf of Mexico. They dredged your winding waters, cut canals so straight and true, but locks of steel and concrete will never be the best of you. Formed by shifting oceans a million years ago, a twisting crooked river from a waterfall did flow. First named Caloosa River by the Spanish long ago, renamed Caloosahatchee by the settling Seminoles. A developer named Diston in 1881, he bought 4 million acres of pristine Florida land, brought a dredging to Fort Myers, 'cause progress wouldn't wait, headed east toward Okeechobee, and he sealed that river's fate. So roll on Caloosahatchee, cross palmettos, pines, and groves, from the great Lake Okeechobee to the Gulf of Mexico. They dredged your winding waters, cut canals so straight and true, but locks of steel and concrete will never be the best of you. When hurricanes raised the waters in 26 and 28, they built a dike round Okeechobee and a channel across the state. What was one part Caloosahatchee and one part St. Lucie is now a shipping channel they call Canal C-43. But wind on Caloosahatchee, 'cause your oxbows still remain, and drifting through in a wood canoe takes me back in time again. Roll on Caloosahatchee, past palmettos, pines, and groves, from the Great Lake Okeechobee to the Gulf of Mexico. They dredged your winding waters, cut canals so straight and true, with locks of steel and concrete will never be the best of you. No locks of steel and concrete will never be the best of you. Thank you.
Hey, Mike. Would you
Yes, sir.
do the golden fleece?
You got it.
You got it, buddy. Thank you.
Frank wants the golden fleece, he gets the golden fleece. Every time. If he wants to hear the golden fleece 10 times in a row, I'm going to sing it for Frank.
Her parents were born in Kalimno.
Oh, is that right? Do you speak Greek? Well, there's a Greek phrase in here. Don't tell anybody what it means because it's all dirty language. Not really, not really. There is a Greek phrase that I use in this, and to retell in a shortened form the story, Frank assigned me a project of writing a song about Tarpon Springs some years back, and so I researched the history of the Greek culture in Tarpon Springs, and read a book called Strangers at Ithaca by George Francis, and he spoke with great passion of the pride that the Greeks hold for their native land and for the town that they helped to build in Tarpon Springs and the sponge diving industry that they created there and that still thrives. There is a Greek phrase in here that I didn't talk about the first time I sang this today, but when the sponge diving expedition would go out, they would have the priest come down to bless the fleet, and so this would happen just before or just after the throwing of the cross for the Epiphany celebration. So he would come down and bless the fleet before they would take off for their long journey into the Gulf of Mexico. And so the phrase basically means bless the captain and the people on board this boat, and may you have good luck. So that's what the Greek phrase is. So this is called the Golden Fleece of Tarpon Springs. They came from Grecian islands, consumed by sacred fire. They burned inside their chests where they roamed, reminding them of wives and children, families left behind when they sailed away from their ancestral home. From Kalymnos and Halki, Carpathos, Simian coasts, guided by St. Nicholas, crossed the sea. They came at last to their new home on Florida's west coast, to Tarpon Springs where they made history. And like Jason and the Argonauts and brave Ulysses too, they're called to seek their destinies like all Greek heroes do. And they made their home in Florida, but always longed for Greece when they sailed the Gulf of Mexico to find the Golden Fleece. Simple men and innocent, courageous without fear, weathered by the sun and by the seas, with hearts forged from Hellenic fires for 7,000 years. The Spongers were a fierce, determined breed. From Anclote Key they sailed their boats, for 6 months they'd be gone, to harvest sponges and meet the blue-green waves. From bends and drowning sharks and gales and blistering heat of sun, many young men went to watery graves. But they built the town and brought their wives and families there to live, and embraced the wealth and freedom this new country had to give. And they're anchored by the heritage they left behind in Greece when they came to live in Tarpon Springs to fish the Golden Fleece. Father, now please sanctify the waters for our souls. Epiphany's past, the Glendy's done, and now it's time to go. The young man who retrieved the cross sails with us at the dawn. Bless him and us and all our boats, pray for us while we're gone. Evoise don pliarhos, keolus don plion. Evoise don pliroma, navrame don calo. For we've sailed the blue Aegean and the Gulf of Mexico, and the sea will always beckon us, and we will always go. And St. Nicholas guards the mariner, Poseidon guards the seas, and with God's good grace and with your prayers, we'll find the golden fleece. Thank you. Thank you, Frank.
You know, as me and Bobby Hicks used to talk a lot about it, it just don't get no better than that. That is a treasure. That's a Florida treasure. Yeah, thank you for coming over and doing it for us.